The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Rise! Get yourselves together! Rise! Stand up and live your life! Rise! Get yourselves together! Rise! Hands up high!
Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed into dank submission. You can't beat death, but you can beat death in life. And the more often you learn to do it, the more light there will be. There are ways out. There is a light somewhere. If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind. Go all the way. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision, mockery, isolation. Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want to do it. And you'll do it, despite rejection and the worst odds. And it will be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. All the way. All the way. You will ride life straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is.
Welcome to the Rise Above show. I am Joe Peroni.
And I'm Heidi Mancini.
So what do you have for us today? Oh, do we have sponsors?
We do. Thank you, Jay Young from City Athletic, for sponsoring the Rise Above show. We are live every Thursday at 2 p.m. on www.dbtv.com. So if you go, we're live right now. We're also archived in the YouTube under Rise Above with Joseph and Heidi. Also, josephperoni.com is a website that we have set up for Joe and his businesses. Also, on the Facebook page under Rise Above, you can find us there. Also, our shows are archived in the site also. Also, if you can go on the YouTube site and subscribe to us, we would appreciate it. That's where, and then you'll get our shows. If you're a listener every week, they'll automatically come to your YouTube subscription, so you don't have to go hunting for us on YouTube. So, and that was it. And also, we would like to help you advertise for your business or your company or your product. So if you can contact me, we can talk about some sponsorship where we can help you advertise your product, and also maybe you can help with us and help us get the word out about the Rise Above show.
Perfect.
And that's all I have.
So we have a new segment that we've been doing the last, 2 weeks, Heidi's Health Tips. So what do you got for us today?
This week I wanted to talk about the benefits of coconut oil. There seems to be a lot of talk about that. We talked about it on last week's show just briefly about the MCT. MCT is found in coconut oil, and you can also buy it by companies out there. There's health food companies now that call it their MCT oil, which is what they call it, and you pay anywhere from $45 to $60 a bottle for that. But you can also buy coconut oil in the health food stores. It comes in a compound where it's actually you can spoon it out, almost like it reminds you of Crisco. You can use it that way. It comes in a teaspoon form in oil. You can actually buy the oil. And I just wanted to touch just briefly on the benefits of coconut oil. I did print something out, and I did have some notes on it, but it wasn't what I really wanted, so I'm going to go off of my phone.
Well, you're using it yourself, though.
I use it myself. I use it right now. It's part of an energy source for me and in replacement for carbohydrates, because I was a carbohydrate freak. Still like them, but I'm kind of trying to get off.
Well, let's
of
be
them.
more specific. When you say carbohydrates, tell everybody what you mean.
Starchy carbs like potatoes, rice, pastas. I don't really eat any of that anyway, but in my diet prep this time, I decided to convert from using starchy carbs as an energy source, which, by the way, they're very low. So, we want to always make that clear, because the diets that people follow out there and the diets that we follow are a little bit different.
Right.
So everything, it's not an addition to kind of a thing. I decided to take the starchy carbs out of my diet, which would be rice and sweet potatoes, and substitute coconut oil in place of that as an energy source, because when you train and you diet and your lifestyle, all these things come into play. You need an energy source for when you're training, because if you do not, your body will start to eat the muscle. So it's really important for people to know that you need an energy source when you're training, because if you don't, you will become a skinny fat. So that's what I'm trying to do, is keep my muscle on, give myself some energy, and lose weight at the same time, lean out. So coconut oil has the benefits to help with weight loss, in addition to providing an energy source.
And you're also eating how many vegetables now?
I eat usually a cup or 2 cups per serving with my meals, and then in between, if I get hungry, I munch on something. Everybody's system and everybody's bodies are a little bit different when it comes to that. Me personally, you can eat a lot of vegetables. You'll eat like bags of vegetables, and you'll be okay with it.
3 pounds worth.
Myself, I can't do that, because the issue I was having with it is because you get carbohydrates in vegetables too, which if you look on a bag of vegetables, there's maybe how many, 16 grams in a bag, if that.
Yeah, that's about it. It's not very much.
So most people consume probably more than 100 grams of carbs a day easily in their diets. My diet, I try to keep it between 80 and 100. So you start adding up bags of vegetables at 16 grams, you could easily in a day eat 100 grams of carbs just in vegetables, which are healthy. They're not starchy. They don't screw around with your insulin levels, which is what the starchy ones do. You get the spikes in the insulin where, you'll eat it, you'll feel satisfied for a minute, hour later you're hungry again, you're craving, stuff you shouldn't crave. One of the things that I had to do was I had to figure out a way to satisfy my cravings, or not even cravings, but hunger. The vegetables were not, in my case, they work for you. I said, it's too many vegetables. I can't do it. I feel like my gut's going to explode, intestinally speaking. I don't want to get into the details of that. But it was very uncomfortable for me. And when I'm working and I'm with people and I'm, training different things, I can't afford to be a walking farting machine. I mean, I hate to say it that way, or gas machine, but that's basically what. So I decided to put the coconut oil into my diet, and I'm more satisfied. I can go from meal to meal and not feel like I'm starving to death. It's helping me lean out, and the benefits from it they're really good for your skin. So when you're on a contest diet like we do, a lot of times it takes a toll on your skin and your hair. You would think that eating the way we eat, we eat healthy 90% of the time, our skin and our hair would be okay, but in reality it's not if you're not eating the good oils.
Right.
So I'll just go through this really quickly. Coconut oil is now considered one of the superfoods, so you should incorporate that into your diet and try to cut out some of your starchy carbs. Not saying you have to go without your starchy carbs, because people like them, but try to keep them minimally. For women, we can function quite effectively on 80 grams of carbs, the starchy ones a day, and be totally fine with it. And then slowly you could replace those starchy carbs with the good coconut oil fat. I would slowly, if you want to do that, introduce it. It's hard to lose weight if you're eating, even though coconut oil is a really good source of fat, and it's an energy burn. It helps you burn energy, and it helps get rid of stored fat. You don't want to overeat that or overeat your starchy carbs too. It's kind of one or the other. So you either diet on starchy carbs or you diet on your good fats. So that's my advice there. I'm not an expert. You're more of an expert at that than I am. So one of the benefits, which we just covered, was the saturated fat. It's harmless to our systems. It's one of the good fats that we can consume that will help with heart health, weight loss, hormone issues in the body, which are, what I mean by that, hormonals, your insulin responses to food and our cravings. The second one is it's okay to eat a lot of coconut oil, from what this article says. Okay, we covered burning fat. Coconut oil helps burn fat. And it also, last week I talked about how it kills bacteria. So it's good for our gut health. So coconut oil helps clean out the bad bacteria that are in your system. And next week I'm going to follow up with probiotics, because that's going to be the next question, because people will say, well, if I'm cleaning out my intestines, how do I get the good antibodies back in there? So we'll talk about that next week. Again, I said it can reduce your hunger, and it helps you eat less. And they also found that the fatty acids in coconut oil, which I didn't know this, turn into ketones, which help reduce seizures. So if people that are experiencing seizures, a diet with coconut oil in it helps with that.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. And then it helps improve blood cholesterol levels. So if you have cholesterol issues, you can add that to your diet to help with it. Again, you need to go to the doctor and get your numbers, and of course follow your physician's advice if you have to take medication. But most times we found that you can treat cholesterol with diet and exercise, and I did that with mine. I have inherited cholesterol from my dad's side of the family, so no matter what, my body produces the bad cholesterol. However, I was able to bring my triglycerides from like 3 something down to like 50 something, and the bad cholesterol I brought down to good levels with just diet and exercise. So my reality is for me to stay off medication, probably I'd have to exercise and diet, eat healthy the rest of my life, because genetic.
You're doing that. You should be doing
so I'm
that.
trying. So I'm doing that. So it helps with that, and it's also good for your hair and your skin. And it also helps the brain function and helps prevent Alzheimer's. So it's also good for brain health. And this people like this one. Coconut oil will help you lose fat, especially the harmful abdominal fat. So the visceral fat that hides underneath, that it helps get rid of that fat that's underneath that we don't always see. When you see it in the front is when it's gotten out of control back here. So it helps get with the deep layers of the fat in the system. And what else? All oils are not created the same. So again, you have to I get the virgin one. It's more processed and distilled and get some of the stuff out of it. So you're going to spend a little bit more money on a better grade coconut oil or concentrated, like a Crisco type form, than you will. Some of them I've seen in the store. You can buy a bottle for like $6, and then I've seen them as high as like 19 to 20 something. So middle of the road there. You don't have to go high end. Your MCT oils, by the way, if you order those online, they're going to cost you money because you're ordering them from a supplement company. So they've really clarified that product, so it's 100% MCT, so you're not getting any additives in there. So that's why you're going to pay a little bit more. And I would just recommend add it to your already diet.
Perfect.
So it's
Any more?
No.
All right.
I think it's done.
Done. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about today is relationships, more specifically towards marriage. I want to talk about the number one reason for divorce. And as usual, I have tied a whole bunch of different subjects together, right? So I want to take a little bit from here, some factual stuff, because there is some factual stuff. We do have numbers on these things. But I also want to get into what society says, because sometimes it doesn't matter what the truth is. Sometimes it matters is what you perceive as the truth. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of things in our society that state what a relationship is, how men are supposed to be, or how women are. But when you really look at it, I want to ask the question, is it true? Right? So let's go over some of this. Let's talk about responsibility in the relationship, because what we've heard is typically men are very aversive to relationships. Supposedly men don't like relationships, they don't want to get tied down, they're not into getting married. They want this thing where they're like the wanderer kind of thing, where they're seeing a lot of women,
the player,
kind of the player. We see all that all the time. You see it in videos, that type of one. And then we always have this vision of the woman always wanting the relationship, and they're great at communication, and they're great at relationships, and they know what to do and how to say it and what to say. And yet the man is this kind of this beast that doesn't know much about relationships, or doesn't care. And so we have that type of view, very much of a Oprah Winfrey type of world that we live in right now, even though I don't think her show's on the air anymore, but that O channels is, and people watch that, and the TLC type channels, that everything is based upon feelings, not necessarily reason, not necessarily facts or values of virtues anymore. It's just about feelings. What do you think? So I thought maybe we could track down the responsibility in a relationship, and we'll take it from, let's say, when somebody goes out all the way to the end of a relationship, and see if we can figure out who is actually pushing the relationship forward. It might be a little bit different than what most people think. You ready?
Well, I am. And I think, though, too, with the relationships, they all start out with people caring about each other and caring for each other. You want to do those little sweet little things for each other. And I think those are things that start to disintegrate a relationship. And you start to I hear it on the female side of things that, well, why should I do that for him anymore? Because he doesn't appreciate it, and he treats me like his mother, and I'm not his maid, and I'm not, you'll hear a lot of women say those kinds of things. But in the beginning of the relationship, though, and I'm not sure if this is true for every relationship. I know in my relationship with you, it would start out in the beginning as doing for me, for you, like cooking the chicken. That was like a big thing, and I wanted to take care of you and wanted to make sure you were eating, and because after your wife died, it was like, okay, you're looking skinny, so let me help out with the food, food thing here. But there was a part of me that I liked doing it, and I was like, I wanted to see this guy healthy, and and all that. And then over time, I could say equally on both sides, the male and the female side, women start getting this no care attitude. But then I also have to say, and I have to say this, that men a lot of times get a no care attitude in a sense that they get really comfortable, and women take that as a sign of there's a difference between complacency and being comfortable. Okay, if you're comfortable, that's great, because every woman should be okay with the fact that her man is comfortable. And what I mean by that is he's comfortable. He comes home after work. He's not doing anything. He's not in the bars. He's not doing his thing. He's comfortable. He's comfortable with the parameters of the relationship, and he's there. Complacency is totally different, and I'll use that word with men. They tend to get a little complacent with the romantic end of things, just like women do. So now what'll happen is then you hear, well, I'm not doing it. So now we have a Mexican standoff where, okay, you're in a relationship and nobody's doing anything to do what? To prove what? And then you end up in a divorce is actually what's going to happen, because then you end up, because all these resentments start to build up.
No, I agree. That's what happens. You said so much in there. I don't even know what to grab first, other than let's just let's go with the first part when you said a lot of women say, and you hear them. That's the first problem, right? There is this thing in society where we talk about being a cathartic release, where we can either talk a lot and get it off of our chest, and we might talk to a friend, or get some anger out, or our frustrations out, or in certain actual therapies where you can actually beat up a pillow. What they really found is that none of that works. If you feed into anger and annoyance and frustration, you tend to get more of it. So if you have a bunch of women sitting around bad-mouthing their men, what you're going to get is a bunch of women always finding bigger and better ways to bad-mouth their men. It never actually works when a group of people are bad-mouthing, no matter who it is. Let's say you're bad-mouthing a bunch of guys. It never happens to a point where everybody says, I'm done. Glad I got that off my chest. I feel so good. I'm going to go home now. and then make love to this man that I just finished ripping emotionally for the last hour with the women. It doesn't work like that. And John can vouch for me here, even though we haven't gone out really, and we just know each other from here so much, but men have a code. We will not badmouth the women that we love to another man. It won't happen. We don't do it. And it's not like we know a lot about relationships, but we just know that that's not a right thing to do. And if we're bad-mouthing you, it's because we don't love you. And usually we're bad-mouthing some girl that was so totally drunk that did like four of my friends and me the same night, and she's, okay, we can throw that out and talk about her. But if it's anybody we care about, we just don't do it. So I love that you mentioned that, because that's part of the thing about society. We have this thing that women know more about relationships than men. Taking it right from the top that you said that's absolutely 100% a disrespectful and wrong thing for anybody to do in a relationship, is to badmouth their partner publicly. It never works. There was a great billboard, I forget what state it was in, but they had a picture of it and they made a big deal about it too, about catharsis. And it said, hit your pillow, hit a wall, but don't hit your kids. And the point is that catharsis does not work, because you can't do something and make it like it's a positive and then stop over here. So if you're going to say, my so-and-so husband or this is a jerk, he doesn't do anything for me, he's this, he's that, he's that, he's that, my kid, then you go home, you're not going to be like, oh baby, I love you. You're just not going to do it.
Well, I think those conversations need to be. I think those conversations need to stay within the parameter of the relationship,
Absolutely.
And things need to be talked about there, and not because people will. And this is my experience too. I like that. There's a lot of women out there say, "Well, I would never put up with that. I would never. Really, because you're still with them." And you're still doing whatever you said you weren't going to do, but they're the cheerleaders to break up other relationships.
That's because they're negative and they feel bad and they want to bring other people down the rat hole. Let me take it from the top of who's responsible for the relationship. And of course it's debatable. And here's the other thing too. There's a lot of millennials now, right? And the younger generation is changing, right? Women are acting a little bit more towards the assertive role. There's nothing wrong with that. I love that, actually. But so some things are in the middle of changing, but we can still have a dialogue about, what basically is. So let's start the relationship. People walk into a room, they're attracted to each other. Who's the one responsible, usually, for asking for that first date?
The man.
That would be the man. So if you were counting it out, we would say, okay, so the person moving the relationship forward, if there's going to be one, would be the man. Now, there's reasons for that, right?
Well, and my reasoning would be, if you can't ask me out, then you're not a man. I'm sorry, but if you want to take me out for a coffee, I think that that's the first step, that you should ask me to go for a coffee. Now, from that point on, or whatever it is, you and I'd happen to be coffee, I think at that point then, a woman could become, once she's in the relationship, she could become a little more aggressive and a little bit more, she could pay the bill once in a while. There's debate on that. Should the guy always pay for your food? No, I think that when you're in a relationship and you've been going together for a while, I don't think there's anything wrong with the woman treating the man to a meal and doing something nice for him for a change. It shouldn't just be all on the man. But me personally, yes, if you want to go out with me, you're going to have to ask me out. I'm not chasing a man.
Right. No, and I understand that.
That could be a generational thing. It could be
I think 95%
of
women understand that, and 95% of men understand that. That's why we can definitely agree that it's on the responsibility of the man to start the relationship. So in other words, if men are so aversive or negative towards relationships, they wouldn't be starting them. So let's start with that. So if a woman's going, oh man, I hate men, they don't like relationships, let's start with the fact that the man is the one asking for the relationship.
Okay, one
that
more
should
thing.
make you feel good.
The chase part of that, I think men, the whole asking out and the whole thing, there's a part of a guy that likes that whole predatory, I want to get this girl kind of a thing. So
Right.
I think if women start becoming too aggressive, I think you take that male side away from the man, because then you hear that too all the time. Well, he was chasing me. When you're chasing me around, you couldn't do enough for me. Now that you got me, you're kind of lazy or you're complacent, okay? But I think if you take that part of the relationship away, or that part of a man away, to say, that's part of their...
But in order to chase somebody, they have to be running. or they have to be
Not always.
kind of distant, right? Like if somebody's giving themselves up, there's nothing to win in
Sure.
that. So just by the fact of there's two people in the relationship and they're just together and they're never apart, there's no need to keep chasing, right? Somebody has to be
No, I
running.
know, but I'm saying initially speaking in the relationship, I think if you take that part away from a man, where he has to be a man and build some self-esteem in that thing, and whatever it is, I think that's not a good thing. I think that's why, and I don't want to talk for this generation because I don't know, but I don't know. I think if you take that away, men become less manly, and then they complain about how the women are becoming so masculine now.
I hear you. Well, listen, everybody wants relationships, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's the way you do it. Men go out of their way. They will put away their anxiety. They will put away their fear. They will put away all of that to prove that they have the guts to go for what they want in life. And that's the first step, right? So being that we all want relationships, if a man doesn't do that, and there's a whole generation of men that have difficulty with that, yes, you're going to see another generation of younger women moving towards the part where they're starting to take over the men's role. Now, just because they do it doesn't mean they enjoy it. If they were in the presence of a real man, then they would enjoy that. But they are taking over the role that was abdicated by young men. Not 100%, but you're right. I think it is that way a lot. But the other day when we talked about this, I like the way you said it. You're holding back on me a little bit. That's why.
Well, I want to say it. I was thinking about today
Oh, but let
about
me-
the entitlements that women have too in
But
relationships.
you're not going to the part where there's a reason specifically why women will wait for a man to ask first. All right?
Yeah.
Well, tell us. We're alive. Tell us. Why would you wait for the man?
Because I want to know that you like me. I want to know that you're interested
Say
in
it
me.
okay. It's because women want to know if you have the balls to go out of the way and face your fear and face rejection.
Right, exactly. If you, and I'm sorry I didn't say it that way, but it's true. Women want to know that you have the guts, the balls, whatever, however you want to say it, to ask them out.
Right, and there's a good reason for that because women want good, powerful, strong men that can lead through life. And that is a very good way to do it. If you want to apply for the job as somebody's boyfriend, the first thing you need to do is step up to the plate and face your fear, right? We can agree. So that makes total sense. I think everybody agrees with that. So the man really is taking control. Now, let's say things go kind of well. There's a good conversation going. You have a couple of little things in common. You have some differences, but you appreciate them at that level. Who moves in for the first kiss? Whose responsibility is it to get physical?
I would say the man in that
Okay,
one.
so now we have two parts of the relationship. The man asks the question, gets the date, formulates the date, figures out something to do so he can prove that he can create something and show some care. Then when there's some physical attraction, he will move in and say, I will now start to take over. So he will move in for the first kiss. So we would agree that men, who makes the first move to really go for it and have sex?
Usually the man.
Okay, so then the next stage would be we want to consummate relationship. The man moves further. Again, he doesn't know if he's going to get slapped. He doesn't know if he's going to get hit with the, this is a date rape or whatever, that type of thing, or just the fear of, just the rejection, which is tough for anybody. It doesn't matter if you have XX or XY chromosomes. Like, rejection
Nobody wants to be
hurts.
told no.
It hurts a lot. So then the man moves in, not moves in house, but I mean moves to the next step and tries to have sex. So that's the third part of the relationship where the man is leading the whole way. Very interesting.
And I think it is interesting, and maybe we could do another show on this too, but I have to do some research on this. If it's a generational thing, because when you say all those things too, like, now that I'm older, I have a different view on those kinds of things. Like, I would probably be a little bit more assertive in
Right.
something.
Yeah, things change.
And then society's a little bit different. I mean, back in when I was, young lady, and even now I still kind of think the same way. I still think it's the man's place to be a man.
Right. And interestingly enough, like you said, even the millennials where it's changing, but those girls aren't happy. A lot of them still, they just feel real at odds about having to take over for men. And if you look at it, they're getting married later and later. It's because they don't feel comfortable. They're the ones taking care of everything. So let's move to the next part. So, okay, so we got the first date, we got the first kiss, we moved in, we've had sex. So the next part, if the relationship moves, who is the first one, male or female, to say I love you first?
I don't know. I think that depends.
Of course it does, but what's the percentage?
Men.
Believe it or not, men are the ones, they are 3 times more likely to say I love you to a woman first than vice versa. 3 times. Now it's really interesting because the part that you'll probably bring up is that before or after sex, right? Like maybe the guy is trying to make sure that he has a source of sex and says, yeah, I love you, come on, to get sex.
Yeah.
And that is definitely part of it. But when you look at the studies that say, okay, how about after sex? That's where it's still 3 times the amount of men. So again, it shifts. And right now people are going, that can't be. No, it is. Society, and men don't help, right? Because John and I can look at each other and go, I'm not saying I love you first. Screw that. Like, well, I'm not that kind of... Yeah, typically we are. Because men, again, here's the first part. Men go out of their way. They face the rejection. And you have to trust that things will be okay. Women, on the other hand, don't really battle up against their trust issues. You can get a woman who's 80 years old and still has major trust issues. Guys have trust issues too, but I don't walk around being afraid to be sexually abused, right? Like, I don't worry about that. I trust everybody. I guess I don't, but I trust myself more. So I don't walk around feeling a little, like vulnerable, let's say. So women have a tendency more to be, just not to be mean, just true, they're not as trusting. So a woman is going to be, it's really hard to drag that I love you out of them, because then it feels like, I don't know if I trust this guy yet. I'm not sure. So it's very, very difficult. So again, so the top 4 are all men. Here's the next one for you. Who actually reports falling in love first? Right? Because there's a difference between falling in love and feeling it and going, well, I don't know if I want to say it. So you kind of hold back. So take a guess.
The man.
The man again. By how? I'm not even going to ask, because this is outrageous. You won't even guess. Men report falling in love first by 44 days earlier.
Wow.
That's 6 weeks, 7 weeks. So 6-7 weeks, he's sitting there going, I don't want to scare her away. Now think about that statement as a society where we say that the women are afraid of scaring men away by their emotions, feelings, or giving in to sex too early. It's the man by 6 to 7 weeks that's afraid to open himself emotionally. Because a man who opens up himself emotionally, society says he's not that much of a man. There's something wrong with you. You're not allowed to love. And don't you dare cry. So there's other things, right? So that's another part of it. So now we have, run down the list, right? The meeting, the kiss, the sex, the falling in love, the saying I love you. What's next? Do you want to think about maybe
Second
getting...
date.
Second date? Yeah, that's next. That's funny. It's like a girl wants to sleep with me. I love her, right? No, I'm kidding. But, okay, so the next one would be buying the engagement ring, right? The thought of maybe putting a ring on it. Who would do that? Unless there's women saying, stop off, in between getting milk and eggs, go and get me an engagement ring, which happens. But it's the man, again, who thinks about getting the engagement ring, tries to find the right one. There's some type of number system that I don't know. It's like X amount of, you take your weekly pay and you quadruple it, and you know, some ridiculous amount of money that you spend on the woman, which really ends up being divorce insurance for her, because if she never gives the ring back, she gets to have something that's worth $2,000 or $3,000 and on the low side. So we would agree, right? That, okay, so then the next part is you have to ask for marriage, right? There's a marriage proposal. Who does that?
The man. And I think too, it's a generational thing. I think you and I talked about this the other day too, that like when you're young and all this is going on, like you just said, the ring, the this, that, all that. I said it's a cultural thing, and it's something that we're raised that this is the steps that you're supposed to take. Because then you no sooner get through all that, then it's like when you get married, then you have your first baby. Now when are you gonna have your kids? And you have one kid. When do you have another one? You know, it just seems like there's a traditional custom that, you know, courting, you know, brings. But I think as you get older, I think a lot of those things on there take a shift. And you and I kind of talked about that, because we said the more money a woman will make, the less likely she is to get in a relationship where, you know, where she's, you know, living with the guy, so to speak. You know, I hear that a lot. I don't have a man. I don't need a man. You know,
that's very true.
And I think as women mature, or women grow up, or whatever happens to them, and like you said, a lot of it's trust issues, a lot of it's baggage that, you know, they just don't want to get rid of, or they can't get rid of. And if you're in a financial situation that you can support yourself without a man, a physical man, you know, where you have to actually be intimate with them on more levels than just sex, because you know, women can be just.
You don't have to whisper.
Well, I'm just saying, because I know women like that. They're all about the sex, but they don't want the man. You know, they're like, they're like the men. They kind of get like the man, the booty call kind of thing,
right?
Whatever. So, and I'm not faulting that. I'm just saying that I think as you get older, there becomes a little bit of a mind shift depending on your past experiences. Women may become more aggressive. I could, you know, see myself being older now. If I was, I'm with you, but I'm saying if I wasn't with you, you know, if I saw a man that I liked and that I thought was attractive, I could see myself at this point in my life saying, hey, you want to go grab a coffee?
Yeah.
And if he said no to me, I'd be, okay, it's cool, you know, that kind of thing. But when I was in my 20s and my 30s, or even when I started dating you, I mean, I was, 40? I mean, I wasn't that aggressive, because I was still, or not even aggressive, I was still stuck in an old mindset of this is how it is. But I think as you mature, things change, because a lot of people are living together now. They're not getting married. You know, they're not doing the engagement ring thing. And I've had to come to terms with that in our relationship at different times. You and I have talked about that, where people say, well, how come you're not married? Well, it's like they minimize the relationship because we're not married. They go, well, you're just not that important. He's just waiting for the next best thing to come along. You know, I've had people say that to me.
You say so many things, and it's like,
you know,
there's so many good things. It's like I'm trying to think where to.
So we'll go back to the traditional. Let's go back to the traditional.
Let me.
What goes on traditionally in the dance, the love dance, or whatever, or mating, whatever they call it.
I'm going to comment off of at least two very important things you said, and it's very true, because studies will show us this. Like you said, when women are able to take care of themselves better financially, and they are. By the way, in the millennial generation, there's more women in college. There's more women that actually work than men do. So a lot of that things are changing. But here's where it's really interesting in terms of looking at percentages. When women make more money, they're much less apt to be in a relationship. For the part of the reasons you said, I can take care of myself. I don't want or need a man. Very interesting, because although times are changing, think about for how long men have had the responsibility, or what do you call it, the power to make more money than women. And what did they do with that power and money?
They still want to be in a relationship.
They could not wait to be in a relationship. Men by nature are nurturers. They do want to take care. It's Oprah And those types of people that have taken the word nurture and made it to where nurture only means that you're a crying mess in the middle of nowhere, crying about your feelings, but not getting anything done. Oprah, by the way, has not had one decent relationship in her life. Does she have kids? No. Has she had? I think she got married just a couple of years ago to some guy that she never really sees, and you never see him around. And yeah, I could talk about her all day, but the point is she knows nothing about relationships. And she has no degree, by the way, in therapy or counseling or anything, yet she's counseling all these other women who are just as angry and as bitter and as empty as she is. So what you'll notice is men who make more money are like, thank God I make more money, because now I can have my wife and kids. When a woman makes more money, typically they say, thank God, so I can be by myself. And there's a big difference there. It's not making a judgment call to say what's bad and what's good. It's just calling it as the percentages see. Now, there's 7.5 billion people in the world. I can't speak for everybody, right? Because I'll be here all day. But it is a general rule. As men are able to secure more resources, they give them away to women and kids. When women get the resources, they usually take it for themselves. You've said that with your thing. The other one I wanted to talk about is, you're absolutely right also. Part of this chart of asking for the date and for sex, these things, it changes as you get older. You get a little more mature, you've been through it before, so you kind of put away all of those other ways that we used to do it. But here's something that's interesting and we should note, is that when you're on your third, fourth, or fifth marriage and you're doing these things because you're older and you say, well, I can ask people out, I get it, and that's your right. But very interesting when you take the numbers from people's first marriages, that's the one that's most likely to last. Because people on their second marriages are much more likely to divorce. If you're on your third marriage, that one has less chance of making it than the second. And if you're married 4 times, your chances of making it are so low at that point. So your best chance of making it in a marriage and making it last is to be able to pick the right person the first time. And that's really it. And so that's why I'm tracking through this. And you're definitely right. Times change, and we get older, we change our thoughts. But interesting, right? If you don't follow the basic rules, your chances of being in a long marriage are even less. So let's go with this thought. So a man will move the relationship forward. So far we have 7 times. So far the woman hasn't led yet. And that's okay, because we still have a chance. What part of the relationship next comes in, maybe, that the woman does take the lead? Because she only leads in one area, going by studies.
Raising the kids.
Right, but they don't. Yeah, she probably does take more responsibility in that.
And the household, running the household.
True.
Because every successful man would tell you
Yeah.
that if his wife wasn't home with the kids and taking care of the house and doing all the domestic stuff, he would not be able to do his job.
Absolutely.
So women do that, and I will stand by that.
Yeah, no, it's not a man against
no,
women.
I know,
It's
but I'm
just
saying
factual,
that's
it's factual.
what they do. Women do
And
do
it's
that.
true. And one of the hang-ups in relationships today is that women do work just as much or more than men, say, out in the field. I don't mean, well, maybe that's farmers, but I mean outside the house. But inside the house there's an imbalance, because men still have that thing about housework or chores around the house is kind of like more towards feminine work, so they don't do as much. So women definitely do more around the house, and they feel cheated in that sense, and that's true. But you know where the number one place where women rule, where they definitely take the lead in relationships? You want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Divorce. So when we talk about having relationships, it's the man 7 times that says, I want more, okay, let's do this, I want to love you, I'm making money, I'd like to give you more money, I'm making more money, let's have kids. And then the woman says, divorce. By how much? Of the divorces that are filed, 70% of the divorces filed in the United States are from women. Interesting. So you lead in ending the relationships, not starting them. So we have to take a look at this to see how we can help it. And maybe we can look at a better screening process. Or here's the big question. What's the number one reason why women want to get divorced?
Because they find out who they are. Or they figure that I don't know.
Well, you're a woman. You talk to women. You're at a hair salon.
The reason
give it
I
your
got
best shot.
divorced, I got divorced after 22 years of marriage, I'll say it. The reason I filed for divorce, there was a lot of reasons there, and a lot of them I would never go back to that relationship because it was not good in a lot of ways. But because I finally said, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm tired of taking the back seat all the time and not being my feelings, my wants considered. And I finally said, you work, you got a career. There's you're going to have to downsize your life a little bit. I knew that, leaving a marriage that was, established, but I was okay with it. And for me personally, it came down to that I finally said, I'm taking care of me. And I was, unfortunately, it was somebody that was okay with me taking care of me. And, that was it. They said, fine, that's how you want it. That's how it's going to be. And I mean, I can look at that in a number of ways. I could say, well, then I was with somebody that really didn't care about me, which is, another thing, say, oh, wow, that was great. I put 22 years in a marriage with somebody that really, all the things I was thinking at that time were true. I'm just here to be your servant, whatever, was going on at the time and whatever. But I don't know. Me personally, that's why I got divorced.
Okay. No, that's great. Let me just throw some stuff out there. What we hear in society, again, the Oprah world, is that men cheat. That's why. That would be wrong, okay? Because women also cheat now. With more money, they're cheating just as much. Here's something interesting, too. If a man is cheating, who is he cheating with? His man friend? Probably not. He's cheating with a girl. So the chances of cheating, it's very, very similar. It's about 50-50. It's not the way they say it is, that men are cheating all the time and women don't. They do. And if you are a single woman and you are having sex with the guy who's married, guess what? You're cheating. You don't get a free hall pass to say, yeah, this is great. Your values and everything is awesome. No, you don't. So you can't say that it's all men, right? So it's not that. And again, surveys or the studies will tell you that a man who cheats or a woman who cheats, they cheat for the same reason. There's a lot of reasons, but 92, if you believe, 92% of the time they cheat because they are emotionally unsatisfied in the relationship they are in. It's not because they want to be with somebody new and get off. It's not because they want to hurt anybody. It's because they already are hurting themselves and they want a connection.
That's true. When you figure out who you are, and this happened to me too, you get tired of doing things by yourself. So when you said the emotional thing, you're like, all right, well, I don't want to be alone. I'm alone all the time because I'm doing my own thing. And a lot of women that I talk to, the husbands, well, first thing out of their mouth is, well, you're cheating on me. There's another guy. These women don't have boyfriends or somebody on the side. They basically said, you know what? No, I'm tired of being invisible in this relationship.
Exactly.
And that's basically, and men would say the same thing. Well, I cheated on you because, the girl at the office was giving me more attention than you at home. Or my client was giving me more attention than you.
Cheating,
whatever.
The cheating's the symptom. The cheating's the symptom. It's not the cause. Right. Again, we try to throw it to that because it takes the problem off of us. Because if you're in it, both people have fault in that.
Right.
Right. From a counselor's point of view, it's not 100% fault on one side and 0 on the other. Let me let people off the hook. Most people that have been in a relationship or marriage that end in divorce, the problem started the day you picked your partner. You did not know enough in the beginning about yourself, and you did not know how to look at another person because your hormones were raging. You had sex probably really early, your hormones start moving, and you don't look at the details of, does this person have the ability to trust another human being? Does this person have the ability to be intimate? Does this person have the ability to be committed to another human being for the next 50 years? That's really hard to figure out. Nietzsche said a long time ago, it's not the lack of love that kills relationships. It's a lack of friendship. So maybe you didn't have enough connected in the first place. So let me get you off the hook. You're not a loser, right? It's really hard to pick somebody when you probably were like under 25 years old. If I knew then what I knew now, I would have picked differently. That's kind of what happens. So let me take that off the table for you so you don't feel bad about yourself. The other one is the number one reason why women file for divorce is called the individuation of self. That's a word that Oprah's not going to use because she can't pronounce it and she doesn't know what it means. Basically what it means is, do you have the ability to be who you are? Do you know who you are? Many women at a very young age, they put feelings first and relationships first without knowing who they are. They define themselves by their relationship, and that could be very good, and it could be good until you're like 40 years old, 45. Then the kids move out. Then all of a sudden you're not a mother anymore. The spouse that you're with is kind of distant because you know each other and you don't know who you are. Now you got the next 30 years to live and you have no idea who you are and what you want to do.
But here's the other part of it. It's okay for people to grow and people to evolve and people to change. One of the things that people do a lot of too is that, and especially women, is they try not to change. And I can totally relate to that too. They go, I can't be feeling like this. Why should I want to have my own money? Why do I have to have this? Why? So what you do for a lot of years is you go, well, I'm not going to, you try to fight what the universe already has planned, and I don't want to throw the universe talk into that. But the thing is that's another reason why it takes them to their 40s till the kids move out and everything else, because they keep saying, no, you keep pushing it under the, you fight what is naturally happening with growth. Because as we mature and we go through things, you start to mature and you start to grow. You definitely, if a woman does not look at the world at 30 years old the same as she did at 20, and she doesn't look at it the same at 40 as she did at 30, and she certainly doesn't look at it the same when she's 50, she's in the point in her life, especially when you get in your 50s, where you start to look at and you evaluate your life just like a man does. And you think, wow, so I think every 10 years, people grow emotionally and through their experiences depending on what they
Absolutely.
are. And a lot of women that you talk to that say they were married like 40 plus years, they gave up a lot to stay married. And I don't mean they gave up whatever, but if you talk to these ladies, they would, and I talk to a lot of old ladies. I have a lot of old lady clients. I've worked with them in the nursing home, and they said, it was about him. It was about my husband.
Yeah. No, and I agree.
They didn't stay married because they were totally happy all those years. They stayed married because that was a thing to do.
But here's the really difficult part that people don't want to see under the veil, so to speak. We don't have a lot of time, so let me throw out a bunch of
stuff,
supposed science for you. Okay, Erik Erikson, he has what's called a psychosocial development, right? He talks about that. When men are 12 to 19 years old, we are already trying to figure out who we are, our identity, and if we can't figure that out, we're going to have role confusion for the rest of our lives. Okay, and then it will mess up everything. We won't be able to move into the next part, which would be called intimacy versus isolation. If a man finds their identity by the time they're 12 to 19 years old, they can move in to the next phase and be willing and be basically prepared to have an intimate relationship by the time they're 25 years old. Now, the interesting thing about this theory, and it's been around for like 80 years now, and it's really, really accurate, by the way, is that it's not made for men, it's made for people. So when you hear a woman saying, I was this and I gave this for this man and I was never myself, you have to stop the blaming. It's you and your fault. This garbage should have been taken care of when you were 12 to 19 years old.
But this is how it's going to change the society, Joe, because if we start teaching our daughters to the same as we teach our sons about building self-esteem by accomplishing things, this will stop.
Yes,
the problem
and that's exactly
is
right.
Girls were treated differently back in the dark ages than they treated the boys. So,
and that's a part of it, and hopefully that will change. But the next part of it is that, again, a woman truly has difficulty finding intimacy because she never knows who she is. And then you see when she's 40, they always talk about, again, the Oprah world, a man going through his midlife crisis. He might buy a car. Well, a woman just says, I don't know who I am. I'm getting out of this relationship. And so she destroys a marriage for 20 years. The actual fact is she's going through an existential crisis, and she needs to look inside herself to see who she is. What's going to happen, though, is very, very difficult, because then the man has to start accommodating a whole new human being, because this garbage should have been done 20, 25 years before. And so if they can both look at each other with love instead of hate, and come together and face inwards instead of away, then one person can support the other in their growth. Yes, if you have differentiation of self and you have not done it yet, you are in the midst of growing. Yes, you should have done it 25 years ago, but any time is a good time when it's the right thing to do. And the husband should allow the woman to grow to who she needs to be. I've got so much to say about this, but we don't really have a lot of time. John, is that it? We cut?
I can give you a couple more minutes.
All right, so let's go on. 10 seconds? Okay, so let's just go to this individuation of self just a little bit, just to flesh it out a little bit more. Part of the definition is that having difficulty separating feelings from thoughts. In other words, I feel this, I feel lonely, I feel bad, I feel sad, I feel frustrated. And so they start conjuring up thoughts to meet the feeling, and they blame everybody else around. Well, that's because you're not differentiated yet. I drive down the street and I feel good, bad, different, depressed, all these things 25 times a day. But I don't sit there and go, Heidi's a jerk because I feel bad right now. I feel really good right now. Heidi's nice. Like, I separate it because I'm different than you. And I am differentiated from you. It's very, very interesting, and I don't mean to make fun of anybody in any way, shape, or form. But I have a personality, right? I am who I am, and that's kind of the way it is, and I enjoy being who I am, and who knows who I'm going to be tomorrow, right? Like, I'm always trying
You're a Gemini.
I'm trying to increase my power every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I know who you are by who you just spoke to. Because if you spoke to someone who's depressed, you walk in the house, you're like, screw this, the house sucks. I'm like, oh, who am I with today? Was it Marilyn or, Jane, or whoever that had a bad day? Because now Heidi has a bad day. Am I wrong? It's because when you're not differentiated, you need to differentiate yourself. I am Joe. This is the microphone. And again, not being mean, but when you fuse together with your environment and everything, and you don't know who you are,
I know who I am. I just have to learn to not bring carry their crap.
I remember
that's the difference.
Lisa,
I know who I am, but I need to not carry it, because sometimes I sympathize with people too.
I can do that too.
I feel bad.
There's a comfortable separation. So movies like Eat, Pray, Love, terrible. Because all it is about telling a woman, listen, you're in a good relationship, go find yourself. You need to find yourself within the comfort of the relationship you're in. I can't say it more than that as a marriage and family therapist. So thanks for listening today. I hope you didn't take that personally. And if you did, you got to check yourself, because I said very important things that can help your life, right? So I'm Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Show.
I'm Heidi Mancini.